guys and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Neha and I make videos related to books. Happy New Year, first of all. It's 2023, it's January 2023. For me, it's the best month of the year. And reading wise, I've not really been reading a lot for the past, I would say, month. I finished a couple of audiobooks here and there, but like physical book reading, I am really not in the mood suddenly. I don't know why. So that's why I thought maybe a good way to remember why I like reading and actually sit down to read would be to recap the last few books that I read in the last months. I think I used to do monthly wrap-up videos, but I stopped the monthly wrap-ups for October, November and December for a few reasons, and I figured let me just quickly recap the books that I read in those months and like talk about them on this channel. But I want to do it in a more interesting way than usual. I thought I'll tier rank the books. So I have made like a tier ranking. I love watching these type of videos. So I've been inspired by that and I've created like a tier ranking, and I'm going to be ranking my recent reads. I'm going to pop up the tier ranks here. So I have 5 levels. So I have sheer perfection, which is typically like my 5-star reads. I have best read on an airplanes, which is mostly like my 4-star reads. Basically I mean books which are good, and if I get some solid chunk of time, like for example if I'm taking a flight which is typically like an hour or 2 hours long, I can make like major headways into this book and I won't be bored. So that's my ranking for my 4-star read. Then 3-star reads, I've titled skipped pages to get to the end. This happens a lot to me for average books, I would say, where the plot is interesting enough for me to keep on reading, but I am getting bored. So I skip pages, and I don't skip pages as such. I skip like text, like dialogues, just to get to the end to find out what happens. So that's my 3-star reads. And then 2-star reads is not my jam. So basically books which are really not up my alley, maybe up some other people's alley. So yeah, that's my 2-star read. And the last one is let's just move on. So 1-star reads, which I definitely would not recommend to anybody. So I have how many books for you here? 19 books to rate today, and so I'm not going to like go on and on and on about the plot of the book and summary and all of that. I'm going to like quickly do this because I have quite a lot of books to get through. So yeah, let's just get started. If I'm looking down at my iPad, which has the tier ranking thing, and let's just start. So the first one I see is Unequal Music by Vikram Seth. I picked this book up because I love A Suitable Boy, and this book is a love story which is set against a backdrop of classical music. It's a love story, and it's about like like star-crossed lovers who get reunited after a long time and all of that, and they have to be with each other even though one of them is married and has a child and all of that crap. As you can see, I'm not in support of such kind of love stories, but in this particular book's case, the language is beautiful. So I did enjoy reading it. Biggest issue that I had with this particular volume is that it is just so heavy on the classical music. Like you really need to know your Beethovens and your Mozarts and all of these like classical musicians and what they came up with and their texts and all that. So I think this book is made for a very, very, very niche audience. If somebody who is into classical music reads this book, I think they'll get all the references and they'll really enjoy it. So yeah, because of that, I think I'm going to rate this 3 stars. I did skip pages to get to the end, and I wanted to like be done with it. So yeah, let's move on. The next book that I can see is At Night All Blood is Black by David Diop. This is the winner of the Man Book International, I think in 2021 or 2020, I'm not too sure, and this is a translated book from French. This is a book set in Somalia, and it is set during the World War II, where Somalian soldiers are made to fight for their colonizers, which are the French. So it is basically the story of this one soldier who who loses his comrade in arms, who's kind of like almost like his brother, and he is forced to like kill his brother on the field because the guy is severely injured, and the toll that it takes on him, and how he unravels, and how he starts doing all these like gruesome acts on the war field that shocks his fellow army people and like his superiors and all of that, is basically the book. It's a very, very short book, but it packs a punch like nothing else. I think it's mainly because of just the unraveling of this soldier, the way it is depicted. It is so graphic, it is so gruesome that you are really drawn to it almost, and you're really that moral question of why, you know, of a soldier fighting for a different government, a different country than his own, for his own country people, I think was very, very effectively captured. I am going to rate this 4 stars, and since it's a short volume anyway, I think it's anyway best read on an airplane. I think you can finish it off in like a hour and a half sitting if you have that time. So yeah, I did like this, so I'm giving it 4 stars. Third one on my list is Babel by Arif Kuang. This is one of my favorite books of the year, honestly, because it is a book about colonialism. It's a story of this young boy who's lifted out of Canton by this mysterious English benefactor, and he ends up being sent to Oxford, to the Tower of Babel, to study translation, because translation in this world plays a very important role, and in general language plays a very important role, and translation plays a very important role in colonization. So coming from a country who was colonized for a couple of centuries, and the effects of which are still being felt until this day, I love this book. I fell in love with just how angry it made me feel, and just how pointless and restless it made me feel. And I think Arif Kuang is just one of the best authors for engaging this kind of a response in me. I think she does magical realism so beautifully well, and I think her take on dark academia is just amazing. So of course I think this is sheer perfection. So I'm gonna and it was a 5-star read for me. I'm not gonna deny it. I did enjoy the Poppy War trilogy a lot more, I think, but this one made me feel more angry because of its subject matter, if you get what I mean. So yeah, anyway, moving on. The next book is The Clothing of Books by Jhumpa Lahiri. This is a very, very short non-fiction that I had read. It's basically the author's take on how books are perceived, how book covers are perceived, and how art, how much art also plays a role into, you know, picking book covers for a book, and how the author really does not have a say once the book is finished. Everything else is a product of a lot of other parties. It's a very, very short book. I think it's like 50 pages, but it's also really short, and I enjoyed the hell out of it because it's Jhumpa Lahiri, and I don't think she can do any wrong. Of course, I won't rate this a 5-star read because I feel like it could be a lot more meatier, and I would read it and enjoy it as much, but this is a very safe 4-star read for me. So it goes into best read on an airplane, and you can also finish it on an airplane because it's so short. So the next one is also a very short novella. This is Daisy Miller by Henry James. This was a part of a book. It had 2 novellas by Henry James for me, and I only finished one. The second one I DNF'd. I'll get to my DNFs probably in a different video. But Daisy Miller is the story of this girl who is on a Europe trip. She's an American girl in Europe, and she kind of like breaks all the traditional norms and these rules set in place of how a young woman has to behave in the times in Europe, and it's the story of this man who becomes enamored with her as well. Again, it's a fun read, I think. I mean, there are a lot of parallels to be drawn in terms of how the American society is and how the European society is, and how shock value plays such a big role in the European society of the day. But I liked it, I enjoyed it. The end is a great twist, I would say, and I did not see that coming. So for that, this is best read on an airplane. Again, also you can complete this on an airplane. So yeah. The next one is my very first graphic novel. I've never read a graphic novel before this, and I finished Heartstopper Volume 1. I mean, again, this, I don't think anybody in in this community needs any introduction to what is Heartstopper. It's so popular today. There's so many videos being made about this, and I finally read volume 1. So I'm gonna just do my rating and just comment on how I felt without trying to explain the plot of this. How did I feel? I think it's a very sweet story. I think it's a very, very, like, it's a very cozy story. It makes you feel all the right things, but there was nothing special about the story itself. I loved the art, and I loved how the story is depicted in pictures, and I really loved my time with it. I think I picked this book up when I again was in no mood to read anything. I was in no mood to read like chunks of text, and this was so easy to like just keep me entertained and keep me happy for an evening's worth. So just for that, again, this is a 4-star read for me. It is best read on an airplane, and I think you can finish it on an airplane again. Wow. Taking a look at the stacks right now, pretty heavily stacked on the second tier, but I'm gonna add one to the top tier right now. The next one is I'm Glad My Mom Died with Jeanette McCurdy. Again, I don't think anybody needs an introduction to this one on this section of the internet. I was listening to this on audiobook, and the audiobook is narrated by Jeanette McCurdy herself, who is a child star who is now an adult, and she's speaking out about her experiences in the industry, her relationship with her parents, her relationship with her mother specifically. I mean, you can see that by the title, and just how much her body image, her self-worth, how she had to go through bulimia, and all of these things played such a huge role on her mental and physical health and stability and well-being. I think for memoirs, the best way to read them, I think, is to listen to them, because most memoirs are recited by the author anyway. So you can really connect with the author's words that way. I think I felt everything that Jeanette was trying to convey with her words. It's a beautifully written memoir. She does not cut any corners. I do feel the second half is quite rushed. She spent an inordinate amount of time explaining her childhood and how she ended up being a child actor. Like, she went into a lot of detail on that part, but I don't think she went into as much detail in terms of how she recovered after her mother died and just her journey to where she is now. I don't think enough time was spent on that. But again, I really, really enjoyed this book, and I think memoirs for me, memoirs like this specifically, are automatically a 4.5-star read for me. So now I don't have a 4.5-star read. So I'm gonna, you know what, I personally don't think this is a pure 5-star read. So I'm gonna rate this a 4-star read, but actually it's more like a 4.5 stars. But I really highly recommend you check out this memoir. So yeah, anyway, moving on, another memoir. I swear this was not intentional. I don't know how the images got uploaded on this, but another memoir that I finished was Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. This book and this person has always been an enigma for me, I think, because I've not grown up being a foodie. I still am not a foodie. I mean, I'll eat food and I'll enjoy food, but I will never go out seeking food experiences like some other people do. But I starkly remember that when the news came out that Mr. Bourdain had taken his life, the shock waves that went through the industry, through social media in particular, I remember that very, very clearly. The way he talks about food and his experiences and how he got to be who he is, it is so magnetic. I think I was reading the physical book, but still I was so drawn to this person. I wanted to know more about him. I wanted to know more about his life and his experiences. And when I finished the book, I was just left with this feeling that, we lost somebody too soon. The world lost such an amazing personality way too soon. And I think because of that, I really, really, really loved this book. It was a revelation for me of sorts. I just loved how he described food. I'm a sucker for details. I love details in books, and he goes into such depth with like food and how he feels about food, and just like he gives like these rules to be a chef. And he doesn't cut any corners. He doesn't be polite. He's not diplomatic. He's uncouth. He's uncouth. He uses all these words, and I still loved it. So actually, I'm gonna rate this a 5-star. I think it was sheer perfection. So yeah. Then I have a very special book. This is Misadventures of a Sales Girl by Ashisha Chakrabarti. She is a friend of mine. We actually went to MBA. We actually went to B school together. We got our MPS together. And this is basically a fiction book of a girl who gets placed in a telecom company, and a Bengali girl growing up in Delhi, and she gets a posting in Chennai for her summer internship. And it's just how she goes through how it's a story about how she navigates so many culture shocks as well as language shocks, as well as the inherent sexism that is in a field such as sales, which is so heavily dominated by men, and how she emerges victorious from it. I loved reading this book because it gave me all the B school feels because like when you're doing a summer internship in a B school, it feels like this is the be all end all, and you really need to, and those 2 months you are just under so much pressure to prove yourself and, like, get a job and be secure from like the dreaded final placements. I felt whatever the character was facing at that point of time, and I was just taken back 6 years ago when I was going through this entire journey myself. I'm not in sales and I didn't do a sales internship, but I get where the emotion came from, and I just loved reading this book, and I'm going to promote it because it's a great book. Anybody who's interested in doing an Indian MBA and just wants like a sneak peek into how summer internships are, highly recommend. So this is a 4-star for me. So yeah. Hi, this is editing me, who has just realized that she has babbled on about books for way too long as usual, and that's why I want to cut this video in half. So this is part 1 of all my recent reads, and then I'm gonna upload another part for the rest of the books. So thank you so much for watching. For the first part, please come back for the second part, because I have a lot of books in the second half which I'm also super excited to have read in 2022, and I want to talk to you about them. And yeah, thank you for watching. If you're still around, please share, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you very, very, very soon with part 2, I promise. Bye.